G'day, I'm Joel from Fight News Australia, and today I'm joined by Faine Mesquita. Faine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Of course, of course. Not only am I grateful just to talk to you, but also you are on holiday after your incredible performance in Portugal, going sightseeing. How is Portugal?
Portugal is it's amazing. I love the food here. It's like so much history, and I'm visiting two of my best friends. So I was like, as someone living in Australia, when you are in Europe, everything is just so close. And I was like, since I made all the way to Europe, like a 24-hour trip, why not extend it for another like 10 days and see some people that I love?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the thing about Australia, being we're in that island, so it's just like there's no one really around. To first off, I want to say huge congratulations on winning your gold medal. First Australian to do that, so a huge congratulations,
Thank you.
of course. Overall, what was your experience at the IMMAF championships like?
It's such a big event and like it's so well organized. Like it's that feeling like you are in the Olympics, which is something that I kind of want to do when I was a kid. So it was a very good experience. Like you're surrounded by so many athletes, like so many professional athletes as well, and some people that you looked at, always looked up, and so it was a great experience. Like regardless like of the result, etc. Just being there, it's like it is a highlight.
How was Serbia? Was Serbia good?
Yes, it was really good. I honestly didn't know much what to expect. The language is completely different from everything I know. I can barely read anything in Cyrillic, but it was okay to walk around, maps and Google Translate. That's the way to go. And amazing food. It was really nice.
Google Translate's an absolute lifesaver.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask, what is it like? How do you get on the national Australian team? What is the process of getting on the team like?
The way I did it, back in July last year, there was the Oceania, the IMMAFA, Oceania. So that's the way I got my spot in the national team for the Worlds. Depending on the division, like you have to to go for some trials, you get in touch with the national team, and then they tell you which coach is closer to you and is available to get you there. If you're like in the position to already be there, like because there is no one in that division, or if there are more people, you're probably gonna have to meet up in some competition like I did. But yeah, reaching out to IMMAFA to start with.
So over at the World Championships in Serbia, in total there was over 520 athletes competing from all different countries. When you're over there, is there that camaraderie between the Australian athletes? Even you may not know each other, but is that kind of us against the world feeling?
Yeah, I think I already knew some of the athletes mostly because I already did this last year as well, and I saw a lot of familiar faces. But yeah, it's like it's definitely one of those things that bonds everybody together. And we came from so far away, For most of those athletes, like from Europe, for instance, they just took like a 2 hours flight and they were there. For us, different story. So there is definitely this sense going on. Yes.
So your final of the tournament, your gold medal winning performance was your first finish of the tournament. You
Yes.
finished in the second round. How did that feel to get a finish and win the gold?
I don't know if you heard this conversation, but there were some controversial decisions throughout the tournament. And it was really heartbreaking to see some of my teammates that were like worked so hard to be on the losing end, even though they had an amazing performance. So I'm really glad this didn't happen to me because I do believe that I won all the rounds in all my previous matches, but you never know. At the end as well, even though I always wanted to get a finish, I had a really tough bracket. I versed the champion from last year. She was in a 10-0 streak. So and then the European champ as well. So I had like tough matches, and I managed to also not have any damage. Because if you have too much damage, you can still be pulled out of the tournament even if you win the match. So I was satisfied with that and relieved that I got my decisions right. But finishing with the take KO was just, it couldn't be any better than this. It's just like such a reward. Okay, that's what I do. And like I finally got to display like one of my favorite moves. So it was really great.
When you're going up, you mentioned it there, you had a tough bracket, back to back, you've got the person who won it the year before, and then you've got the gold European medalist. When going into that, is that something that plays in your head? Does that do you get intimidated before something like that?
Look, to say that I wouldn't say intimidated, but it's obviously something like you acknowledge and you respect, and it's not going to be an easy match, and you just try to get ready for it. But no, I wasn't intimidated. I could see like everyone has gaps, and I was confident in my game plan. And it was just like I'm gonna do it. I can do it. And I had this like set up in my mind that I was able to, if I pull out what I have been practicing so hard, I would be able to get the win.
Talking about that practice, and you mentioned it a little bit before that you did compete in last year's event. In an Instagram post, I'm going to read the quote here. A year ago, I had my first fight, dislocated my elbow and ruptured ligaments. When that is your first fighting experience, in your first fight, to have something like that happen, how does that affect your fighting mentality?
Well, probably we should start with even like before that. I had one match scheduled. My first fight was supposed to happen before the first lockdown for COVID was announced in Australia. So we got an opponent, we got an event, and we confirmed that we are on. And then a week later, they announced the lockdown. So it didn't happen. So I have been through all this process like everybody else, like months out of the gym, no training, etc. Got ready again, had a match, and the match was supposed to happen in the wake of the second lockdown in Sydney. So and this one was even further, before, because in the first one, like we agreed we are going to have a fight at a certain date, X amount in the future. The other one, like it was the ads were there, my friends bought the tickets, and we were a week away, so I cut all the weight.
You did
And
arguably the worst part, cutting the weight.
I know, right? I did all the bad part, let's say. And then it was canceled. So and after that, there was like I was just struggling to find a match, because like there was like a massive backlog, but it's still not so people like they were in the same, like debuting, the same type of experience, weight, etc. There are not many of us, in Australia in this division. So I was like, and I end up meeting one of the coaches for the Australian team, and there was one spot available, and I was like, let's do it. I want to fight as soon as possible. And I did go to Abu Dhabi, and I didn't feel too much pressure because it was there. It was in an international stage or anything like that, especially because like when I get there, I cannot see anything outside. I have myopia, but other than that, I also don't think too much about what is happening on the outside. It's just my thing. Uh, And I think what happens to me in that fight is, even though like I managed to get a takedown, that was my strategy against her because she had like a longer reach. I was a division above. Lack of experience took the best out of me. Like the referee was telling me, improve your position. So I started striking her from guard. She grabbed my arm. I tried to tap, but the other arm was a bit locked and I was screaming. The referee didn't hear. So I stood up just to free my other hand. And obviously, that's the worst thing that you can do when you get into an armbar. But I couldn't do anything else, so I did it. And I dislocated all my ligaments, dislocated my elbow and ruptured all the ligaments. Didn't need surgery, but it was really close. In the beginning, I was like, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how bad it would be, how the recovery would be. So I had like many questions, like, should I do this again? Am I gonna be able to fight again in the first place? Like, will this ever be the same? But like after 3 months or so, doing physio every day, training, and going back to the gym slowly, like going back to MMA slowly, I was like, of course I'm gonna do this again. I love doing this. And then I had another fight, and just from then I just start to feel even better about my skills, and a bit it was a horrible experience, but it was like a very valuable one. Like,
So now to be at the opposite end of that, go from having your first fight at the World Championships and having to go through an injury to now winning the same event 1 calendar year later. What does that feel like?
wow, it's like it's so rewarding in a sense. It's like, it is it's almost like, oh, this is just too perfect. We have like all this full circle that you were the first one going home in the first day. And then I was the only one who won a gold medal in the Australian team this year. So, and all this like healing process, like felt my arm, questioning like if I should still be doing MMA. Is that too late? Am I too old? Things like that. And then like I trained so hard, and I was able to actually prove that all those doubts that I had were wrong. That I like you said, I didn't have any finishes, but then it proved me that I could go all the rounds against all these people that were younger than me, and then some of them are just like laying on the floor on the other side of the corner, and just so it proves me like, yes, I still have like cardio for days as well. So it was good on the seeing this aspect. So very very rewarding, and yeah, it is. I'm still finding the words to describe all the feelings. Like, it's a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
How did the training between the first time you went to this event compared to this time change? What has that year been like for your training?
Um, I would say that before that, and it's not because I changed it because I wanted to do the words again. I actually didn't. I was like, it's too far. It's just too much going there. I just want to fight and see what happens. And also, I thought I would be able to get more fights in Australia. I didn't. Spoiler. But I was just, I moved to a new place. So, like, my previous gym was just too far from me. So that was the cause. The consequence is that I started training in a new team with a different coach, and it was more like MMA focused, MMA drills. Before I would do more like jiu-jitsu classes independently, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing. I still do all those things, but now I do much more classes that are just called, let's say, MMA. So I'm mixing up more often.
Do you think, well, I mean, yeah, you've just said it there, that is a key part to be able to train everything at once compared to individually?
It definitely helps you to switch gears quickly, like, oh yes, all these transitions, like I sneak punching here and there when I'm my grappling. Uh, but I don't think it did change my style too much. Maybe I'm just quicker to react to that.
Do you have a preference in terms of striking or grappling?
Uh, People would say I prefer jiu-jitsu still. It, it's you just avoid some damage, and yeah, I like that control that jiu-jitsu gives you.
Even with a TKO finish, people are still going to say you prefer jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Um, Talking about jiu-jitsu, I saw an Instagram post you made a little bit ago about getting your purple belt. And in that post, you first off, congratulations on getting your purple belt. Um, and in that post, you mentioned it took longer than most, and I was wondering, why did it take longer than most?
I started jiu-jitsu that in Brazil. I trained there for a year. But I moved gyms quite a few times here in Australia because like I moved places and I was still like trying to figure out what I was doing and then I started training MMA and I was training at the gym that didn't like, some gyms that promote you, like you stick to the gym, I don't know, and they promote you. But in this gym, I had to, let's say, apply for it. It's like more like a traditional type of graduation that you have to show some forms, some katas, let's say. So, and because I didn't have time for this, I end up never grading. Not, and I didn't care either. I was like happy with the skills that I was getting because like it was just amazing. I had such an amazing coach at the time. But it's just that I never had this how can I say this label on top of the skills because there was a point that like in my last uh blue belt comp it was like this is just ridiculous. I can't do this anymore. I finished all my matches and the one that I didn't, I was like I was scoring like 24-0. I was like I can't compete as a blue belt anymore, so I need a purple belt or just so I can at least do this again if I want to join a competition.
Just so you can at least not feel bad. You
I
just
know, yeah, but like, it's not fair because I was still training like anyone else. I just didn't get the belt. So, yeah, I had to, yeah, do this.
um. So if I heard in another thing like another interview you did, you mentioned you've been in Australia for about eight years now, correct? Or 8, 9-ish years.
Yeah, 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 8 years.
You mentioned just then you started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in Brazil. When you immigrate to Australia, how quickly do you go back into your training? Because obviously that's a huge move. I understand martial arts not being the first thing you want to do when you're in a new country.
No, actually, it was something that I did in the first week. First, find accommodation. Second, jujitsu.
Of course, that's the competitor in you, of course.
Oh, and also, like, have you seen white belts? How passionate they are?
Oh, absolutely. White belt
Exactly.
here. Absolutely. Um,
No, I still am, but like it's next level. It's just like you can't think about anything else. It's all that you want to do. So yes, of course, that was like one of the first things that I did once I got here.
what was that like? Immigrant, like showing up in a new country and the first weekend, you're like, let's choke out some locals.
It's not very different, to be honest. If anything, I would say, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud to represent Australia, that I felt much more welcome as a woman on the mat. I see like there is much more support for women, like doing sports overall, like even like trying to play football or as some people call soccer back in Brazil. I would have some retaliation over there. So it was great in that sense. And in terms of jiu-jitsu, it's just the same. The Other than the language, it's just pretty much the same. Every coach structured their own classes, as they depends on who is teaching. But yeah, I think the main difference was the sense of support that I felt in the gyms here. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. From a career perspective, from a martial arts career perspective, after winning, the world championships, what do you think is next for you in the realm of MMA? Is it turning pro? What do you think it is?
Yes, I do want to turn pro. I think I already proved myself against like the best amateurs out there. Some people there are even, being like a sponsor to compete, which pretty much defeats the definition of amateur sports. But and I still being able to succeed. So I think the next step for me is definitely going pro, and seeing what I can do there. Like, no shin pads, elbows from close distance. It's gonna be really, really fun.
Is that the next fight you want to have? Is a pro bout?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm waiting to hear from some promos. So like I just watched Brave last week. That would be one of the natural steps. I know that they do have quite some people who want the worlds they join. They sign up with them. Bellator as well is a great one. So yeah, whoever is out there, yeah, get in touch.
Excellent. In your Instagram bio, I noticed you've got the phrase part-time fighter, full-time nerd. I want to know what's your nerdiness of choice? What do you do that makes you a nerd?
Oh, it's pretty much everything, but I'm a software developer. So that's my full-time job. But other than that, when I was in Belgrade, one of the things that if you ask people, I was obsessed about doing there is like I have to go to Tesla Museum. Like I cannot leave this city without going to this museum. He was like my childhood hero, pretty much. So yeah, video games, like you name it, pretty much. Oh, I got everything covered. Star Wars mug. Yeah.
Um, so obviously, I mentioned at the top of the interview, you're enjoying some time off. You're seeing some friends that you've got from all over the world. When you get back to when you come back home and you come back to Australia, you mentioned it there, games. What video game are you itching to play the most once you come back?
Oh, I have a Nintendo Switch. Like, so probably have to finish that Luigi's Mansion that has been a while that I didn't touch because I was training so much. And I have to verse some people in Mario Kart as well. Uh, yeah,
Ex-
Nintendo is my favorite. If you didn't notice.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And again, thank you. Excuse me. And again, congratulations on your incredible, fantastic victory. First Australian to win a gold medal at the
Yeah,
IMMAF World Championships.
thank you.
Thank you so much.